Welcome to Unscripted. Today we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead.
Zombies!
Zombies.
Everywhere.
I have zombies on my shirt, technically, since Merle is a zombie now. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Ahead of time.
Michonne is here as well.
Yeah, Michonne is here. But ahead of time, we have to say this podcast is going to be extremely spoiler-filled. Like, we don't care.
Spoilerific.
We don't care if you're caught up. We're caught up, so at least most of us are.
I'm caught up. I don't know what you're talking about.
At the time we are currently filming this, we are about halfway through the second part of season 4.
Yeah,
I believe.
Halfway.
So
Yeah, we're like, 3 episodes after the season resumed?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. The
Very
last
cool.
episode that has been released is still, and tomorrow on Sunday, March
it will be
9th,
yes.
will be, what is it called?
I forget. It's like Alone something.
I think it's just Alone.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Alone. Anyway,
so
what do we want to talk about first?
Okay, I want to actually figure out what are your guys' favorite characters.
Daryl.
let's
Daryl?
okay, as much as the fan base orgasms at the first mention of Daryl.
Daryl is my favorite character.
I mean,
He's got really great
deep.
character development.
He does
especially with Still.
He does have good
I've never
character
seen that
development, but I also like Michonne a lot.
Michonne is
Michonne's
good, yeah.
amazing.
I love Michonne.
She's my favorite because in both the comics and the by the way, I've read pretty much all the comics and pretty much up to date on comics except for a few.
I only know a little bit about the
So I'll probably be talking a lot about like the comparison between the two. But going back to what I was saying, Michonne's a really great character and she's my favorite in both comics and show.
Yes.
And I really loved Herschel. R.I.P.
Love.
No, don't talk to me about Herschel. Christmas was canceled that year.
What?
His actual name is Herschel.
Herschel Green.
Herschel Green, yeah. It was, and the reason why I'm liking Michonne even more than I already did is because of the recent episode which showed her backstory beforehand.
Her backstory was really great.
Her backstory was both really great and it gave me feels, and I had to turn off the television for about 20 minutes while I was sobbing into a pillow. Not the rest of it, though.
The rest of it. That's
Yeah,
the
the next one's called
important
Alone.
Alright, cool.
Is that really like the title of last episode?
A question that I have that's going...
Sorry.
No, it's
Sorry.
fine. It's going a little bit off of the favorite character thing.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Personally, and y'all can think this can sound like a heartless jackass if you want to, but I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But I think that Judith should have stayed dead.
I think they should have kept that plot point.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the comics, she died like almost immediately after she was
She
born.
died during the prison raid when the governor went through the fence.
And then in the show, she's still alive.
And then the show, it made it look like she was dead, but then, oh no, Tyrese is carrying her like a little girl. So.
I love Tyrese.
I mean, give them credit. At least it makes it look less heartless, like they didn't just leave her for zombie bait.
You're saying Kirkman isn't heartless?
Oh no, I'm not
Big
saying.
Dipper.
We're talking about infants, like literally. The only dead baby implication I've seen was all the way back in season 2, and I haven't seen another one since.
Well, I mean, the lack of infants kind of hints at the fact that most of them are probably dead.
Or no one wants to have any.
But what you were talking about how they did that. I loved how it went with the comics. The fact that Lori actually died with Judith, which I actually really loved that. Danette's just kind of walking around now.
I'm doing technical stuff.
And it was really tragic, but it also brought the plot point of how the governor died. The governor died very differently in the comics than he did in the show.
And in the show, I thought it was rather not unsatisfying, but it was more like I didn't want him to go out the way he did.
Anticlimactic?
It was anticlimactic because, I mean, Michonne did what she had to do. She came behind him and she stabbed him. But then she just left him on the ground, which I was screaming at her for doing that, by the way, because I knew that he was just going to get right back up and would start torturing them again. And then, woman who lost her daughter that we've barely known comes up and just shoots him in the face.
Well, I was talking about, I'll go ahead and say how it goes. In the comic books, the governor dies during the raid at the prison. There's a girl named Lily who is one of the one of the governor's soldiers, and the governor orders her to kill Lori, so she does, like the shotgun, blood everywhere.
Oh, please.
But she was holding Judith, and then Lily realized she just killed a baby, kills the governor. Mm-hmm. So really, neither of them are really, what's the word? They're not very satisfying ends to the governor's story arc, but I like the comic book ending of his story arc better. Mm-hmm. But I do have to give the show credit. I was doing a basically marathon last night, trying to get caught up, and the episode where they were the governor comes back. What is that?
While Patrick is looking stuff up, I'm gonna make a side note that this episode is probably going to be split cut, because technical issues, but it'll be one episode, but just there's gonna be a split in the middle.
Don't worry.
Live Bait, the episode Live Bait, episode 6 of season 4, where the governor is revealed, "Hey, I'm back." And it's when it's focused solely on him. And they did a really weird job, and I have to give them credit for it. They kind of made me sympathize with him a little bit, because it showed that he does have something of a heart. Something of a heart. I mean, he really deeply cared for his original family, with Penny and all. And it's really tragic that happened, but he went over the edge, which made him a really great villain.
Well, yeah, but even when Rick thought that he lost everything, like the governor thought he didn't. It was sort of like what happened with Shane. Like, he didn't let the world take control of him, and he still rose up to be a better man. Like, if I really wanted to sympathize with the governor, he probably would have risen up and he wouldn't have gone psycho the way that he did.
The dude never returned to the ground. Once Penny died, he went on a fit of rage, and the only reason he became easier to sympathize with was because he saw Penny in the girl that the group that he was with. I can't remember her name right now.
Girl who got tragically bit because the mother couldn't just pull the gun 30 minutes before the walker bit her.
Megan. Her name is Megan. He saw Penny and Megan, and it made him very sympathetic, and it really kind of touched me in the heart a little bit when he went upstairs and got the backgammon set from underneath the bed. Oh. And he brought it down for him just to make the little girls happy, and it was really sad. And then he went and beat the guy's brains in with an oxygen tank.
Okay. Welcome to Walking Dead.
So, yeah, Walking Dead, everybody.
I do have to really applaud the casting. Casting in the Walking Dead show is great. Mm-hmm. Morrissey, they could not have done a better job of getting a person to do the governor as well as Morrissey did. Yeah. And then Rick, with Andrew Lincoln.
Something off topic about the cast. I never would have gotten they were like Australian.
They know.
Rick doesn't especially.
I never would have gotten that unless I saw like the cast interviews and all that stuff, because they covered up really well.
I had no clue that Andrew Lincoln was English before, because they were doing like a marathon and they had like those little segments in between where they talked to the actors. I had no idea before he started talking in one of those segments that he was English.
Mm-hmm. And same goes for the actress who plays Maggie as well.
What's her name? Laurie Cohen. Yeah, I didn't know she was British until I saw the episode she was in Supernatural, where she kept her accent. And Morrissey as well. Both Andrew Lincoln and David Morrissey, Rick and Governor respectively, they both do a really good job to hide their accents. They both pull off Southern accents really well, which it kind of helps the fact that British accents can be almost interpreted as Southern accents with a little bit of a change. Yeah. And I know a lot of people lately, I've been reading stuff online about people are kind of dissatisfied with the show right now, because it got, especially people specifically with season, 2? It got really kind of slow.
2, yeah.
But I still like the slow part. And because they focus a lot on character development and plot, which is really great for the show, and they do a lot with the comics as well, and it shows through. The one part I didn't like about the show so much was the fact that it's separated away from its comic origins. But I understand the need to, because you have to make sure you keep your audience, and if you were just basically make the comics into the show, you're not going to get the comic book readers.
Well, that, and you sort of need to have a divide, because, I mean, as much as the comic books, as I'm sure, are good, you still need to have a separate layer because it's not the comics. It's a show. It has its own medium. Danet.
We're making a cut now. So we're back from our cut. And
yeah, whoops. Picking up where we left off about comic book differences and such. There are some similarities and some differences between the comics and the show. I mean, hey, like for example, what's her face? Sophia is actually still alive in the comic books. Mm-hmm. Not dead. Yeah. Not dead. She didn't die at the Green Farm.
Oh, Sophia.
The Green Farm. And when the scene where Herschel tragically dies, he
tragically dies.
That's not in the comics. That was not Herschel. That was actually Tyrese.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, there are some differences. Like some characters are alive, some characters are not. Like Daryl is actually not even in existence in the comics.
There you go.
Yeah, the Merle brothers aren't a thing.
And then everyone tuned out.
But the comics are really good though.
Yeah.
Like the writing is great. I remember an interview with Kirkman at one point. In the comic books, during the governor's reign, Rick, Glenn, and Michonne go to Woodbury at the very beginning when they first find it, chasing the helicopter. And Rick gets his arm cut off. And that was like one of the most oh my god moments of the comic books. Because for the rest of the comic book arc now, Rick is one-armed man. But in the show, Kirkman's like,
a really good
I'm not
device
gonna do
that
that.
they shouldn't have taken out.
Yeah, Kirkman off the first was like his biggest
Because
mistake.
The biggest thing about Rick is that he's the protector. He's the one that gets things done because he's a cop and he knows how to shoot a gun. And taking away his arm in the comic book was a really good way of saying, hey, this character has this really great strength. Let's take it away and develop them further because now they don't have that strength. And then they took it away in the show, and I think that was sort of a crap move because now Rick's character is just like kind of at its peak now, I guess.
He kind of is. I mean, he's a very complex character with a lot of different motives and reasoning.
And you know, to be honest, I know he's the main character of the show, but I don't see him going on for a lot longer.
I don't see him even as the main character. Like, I know he's supposed to be, but like, there's so many other characters that I just find more important to the story even. Like, not even just personally I like them better, just to the story they're more important.
Yeah, I mean, they take an omniscient point of view, which is good for Kirkman in the fact that he wants to keep going with it. Because people are like, oh, how's the show going to carry on if Rick dies? I mean, Rick's never going to die. But that's the thing. Kirkman can kill Rick anytime he wants to.
He can.
And he can carry on because even in the comic books, it shifts focus enough that though Rick seems to be the main character, they're all main characters, really. You can just at one point go like, okay, Rick's dead, I'm going to follow Michonne now. And then eventually Michonne will die, and be like, I'm going to follow this new character. So he can keep going forever if he wants to, but I mean...
Daryl will never die.
But they they really show that in the show like recently because there was one episode, I can't remember which one it was, but where Rick was basically unconscious for an entire day, and you thought he was dead. They even had a moment when it looked like he came back as a zombie and Carl was about ready to shoot him.
Yeah.
But like at that point it was Rick dying, but I wasn't worried about the show ending then. I was just like, well, who are they going to follow next then? Because I want to see other people.
It's the first episode back from the season.
Speaking of Carl.
What is the...
Oh my god, Carl. Yeah, now I understand that he is... growing, he's growing up in a very survivalist state type of mind.
And he has to. There's no other way around it.
He has to. But even then, he's more turning into the governor almost.
He is.
Because of when... he was about ready to kill his dad, and he even said, I won't need you anymore. Or, like, I don't need you anymore. Something along those lines. But, to be honest, I think as soon as Carl will finally be alone, he's either going to get his comeuppance, or he's going to go, cuckoo.
Well, I mean, he already is a little cuckoo. That's one thing they have kept the exact same, basically, in the comics and show. Carl's a little... something or another. He is
house Carl.
It's actually really great that they're doing that, and the fact that it shows what this world can really do to somebody that's growing up in it.
Yes.
Carl grew up much faster than a 12-year-old kid is supposed to. he became very dark because of the surroundings he's been in. I mean, he's seen so many people die, and he's killed people. He doesn't blink when he's killing kids anymore, even. Mm-hmm. It's a thing. It's like, they're a threat. He reminds me of what Carol is in the show. It's like, you're a threat to our group, you're going to die.
By the way, welcome back, Carol.
But yeah, by the way, Carol's back, guys.
How you doing?
But speaking of...
Don't ruin my ship with Beth and Daryl, I swear to God.
Oh, so we're not shipping... We're not shipping Daryl and Carol anymore. We're shipping
Okay, here's
Beth
the thing
and
with
Daryl.
Daryl and Carol. That's what I say.
What's the ship name for that?
It's literally Carol, just spelled differently. Which is one thing that annoyed me, was like, please just get a creative ship name. But anyway, with Daryl and Carol, I hated them in the beginning, like, together. Like, I hated that concept of them being together. And then as it went on and as it progressed, it was like sort of like, yeah, it kind of grew on me, because like, I saw how they interacted, and I saw that...
The poncho.
I saw how they interacted with each other. I was like, okay, I could get behind this if it makes, like, Daryl happy, because he's my favorite character, and God knows he needs some happiness right now. And then she left, and then they got this really...
She didn't have a choice in it.
She got stranded, but anyway. But then they're introducing this really amazing dynamic with Beth and Daryl.
It's really great.
And I love that dynamic.
Speaking of that, are you still going?
Well, I'm just gonna go on about how much I love.
Oh, but speaking of that, I thought Beth was kind of bland before, but after the last Sunday's episode, she's
my favorite episode.
She grew from relatively what's that word where you don't really change?
Monotonous?
Monotonous, I guess, but it's like they went from static. She went from static to dynamic in the course of like 45 minutes.
It was a really great shift in her character.
Like, it's really interesting again with them, because Beth, like, in the prison, she was completely just like monotone or whatever, apathetic. She was apathetic about everything.
I don't
she was
cry
like,
about things
I'm not
anymore.
going to cry about how anybody dies. And during that time, Daryl was very much, I'm going to protect all of you. And you saw how he was with Sophia. He was very much that very emotional character. And then
Daryl and Sophia.
After everything happened, like, when they came back and everybody was out of the prison, they sort of switched places. Like, Beth was very emotional and, like, very much a Daryl character, and Daryl switched to just apathetic, I don't care anymore. And they sort of, like, that's why I love them together, is because they sort of kind of help each other, I guess. Like, it's just a good character dynamic to have, and they're doing a great
really
job
good.
developing it, too.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure how Beth is in the comics, or if she's even in the comics at all.
She's not even a remember remember, I don't think, because I can't remember.
She was a very insignificant character in the comics, really.
Yeah, but I mean, she... And then this is just my personal 2 cents. But she's had really bad luck with, like, every guy in her life. And if that continues, Maddie, everyone. And if she continues and she's still with Daryl, I'm significantly worried for his safety. I think.
True.
I'm always worried for Daryl's safety.
But I mean, Beth she is more like, as Carl has grown up pretty fast for a 12-year-old. I honestly didn't think until the prison was raided, or heck, even until her home had to be abandoned, that she had grown up at all. Because she had her panic attack. She had having thoughts of suicide, and then she became apathetic, and now she's like...
She never thought she tried.
And now she's like, no!
She's a very powerful character. I think it's really great. Yes. Speaking of powerful characters, hello, Abraham.
Hey,
Abraham.
How you doing?
Loved him. In the comics, he was a real hard character to get used to. He was more of a I'm doing this for me sort of character.
Yeah.
And he didn't really care about the group. But he just like the Carol Daryl ship, he grew on you. Yeah. He became one of my favorite characters in the comics. I mean, Michonne still is like way up here by comparison to anybody else. Also, back to favorite characters. Herschel Green.
Patrick is going to have his monologue now where he cries.
Christmas was canceled.
I mean,
Christmas is canceled.
Herschel Green was they make it so characters are hard to get used to. Herschel Green, when he was first introduced, was kind of like this. Oh, you keep zombies in the barn? What are you, man? You're sick. And nobody really liked him, but he definitely became a more caring character. And I think the show does a really good job of developing these protector characters. First with Dale. Dale was that father figure character that everybody loved.
We're still upset about that.
Yeah, we are still upset about that. Two.
I need 2 minutes.
And well, Matthew's crying over about. It really shows Herschel's strength, because when I was doing the marathon last night, when we got to the part with the flu and how Herschel's like, you risk your life doing everything, but I'm going to risk my life trying to save everybody else. It really hit me hard in the fact that this is a really great character. He is risking his life to save everybody he can. He's going to go into the quarantine bay and he's going to give everybody tea. He is going to. He's a vet. He doesn't actually really have like human training, but he's going to do his best. And he knows he might die and lose his be like separated from his daughters, and he's okay with that because he's going to help these people along. Because he knows how much Glenn means to Maggie, and vice versa. He knows, okay, I'm going to save these people, and I'm going to save Glenn. And it really, that definitely made his death much harder on me. So now I need a minute.
Glenn. Oh, Glenn.
Glenn is a great character.
Glenn is a really great
Erica
character.
Want to talk about Glenn?
Now, see, the thing is, I'm not saying I could relate to Glenn, but I thought that he was a person that a lot of people could project themselves onto, because he seems to be in that age demographic where a lot of people would watch the show, and he's frick, I don't know. He'd probably be how most of the people were like, unless, you know, you're a redneck and you keep like 20 guns in your shed and you're waiting for the zombie apocalypse to happen.
Merle?
Every day.
Merle?
yeah, I mean...
Speaking of tragic characters who got good at the very end.
Glenn is just... I think they've already developed him as much as he can be. And he's gonna be at his end soon.
Do you think they're gonna kill him in the show?
Spoiler alert, he dies in the comics.
Very, very violently, I might add.
Sorry, Aaron's just kind of running laps.
What you hear is hello,
But
Erica.
do you think they're gonna kill Glenn in the show?
I don't know. I really hope not. Especially the way he goes out is really tragic. It really broke my heart reading it. And it was in I'm gonna go ahead and say it's in issue 100. Like this milestone episode, and they. No.
Issue 100 right here.
I can't.
Yeah, issue 100 was one of the most tragic.
No, Danet.
Parts.
No, Danet.
I'm gonna find the page.
No.
Do you really want to find the page? I don't want to find the page. Quit finding the page.
Okay, here's the page. Here's the page.
No.
Please don't,
girl.
No, that's the page. He was a really great character. He's one of my favorites because everybody just treats him so terribly. He's like the test dummy, basically, especially at the very beginning, like with the well walker.
No,
that was completely unnecessary to the plot at all.
Disgusting.
Don't eat when watching stuff with the well walker.
Oh, dude. Speaking of that, how amazing is this show's special effects? Makeup and special effects.
Oh,
I like it.
I saw
It's
the not documentary, but like the special episode on that, and it's like, prosthetics.
It's really great. Like they have a scene.
What are you talking about? It's all real.
Season 4, episode 1, 30 days since an accident, and they're in the store.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden the zombies start falling to the roof, and there's this one that's hanging by these like shrapnel pieces of the roof from its intestines, and it's like ooh, and at the same time.
Speaking of which, going off of that special effects thing, you can go back to it, but I just thought Beth's boyfriend dying was a bit of overkill in that episode. I mean, he has a cabinet full of them. He gets bit by a walker. And then,
I looked at Daryl like, could you at least shoot the kid?
And then the store collapses and the helicopter falls on top of him. I mean, people.
I was looking at Daryl like, could somebody just please shoot that kid and put him out of his misery? That's how the show goes. you get attached. I think it wasn't attached kid. Like he had like 30 seconds of screen time, and all of a sudden I'm like, I like this kid. He's trying to guess what Daryl does for a living, and it's really cute.
Suddenly,
which by the way, we know now.
And then he gets stuck under a thing, and it was sad. I wanted Daryl to shoot the kid just to put him out of his misery.
Can I bring up character development in Still now?
Yeah, dude, go for it.
That episode was amazing with character development on Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is a little bit of moonshine.
And it was really interesting though, because I found it really interesting that Daryl is an angry drunk. Like he's an angry drunk.
It didn't surprise me, honestly.
It was like, that's the thing though. It was like one of those facts where it's like you have these like little facets of characters where you don't even consider them beforehand. Like you're just like whatever, you have some other idea or something, but as soon as it's revealed as canon in the show, suddenly it all makes sense. Like it makes complete sense that he would be an angry drunk. But
and you know, in this state of the world, can you honestly blame him for wanting to get drunk?
Well, Beth is a happy drunk, which I found a little. Drunk. I honestly found that more surprising.
I thought she would be the depressed drunk.
Yeah, I thought she was going to be a really depressed drunk. Like her pretty much all her family's dead. She doesn't know if her sister's even alive. And
Maggie,
I love Maggie.
But like that outburst between Daryl and Beth was like one of the most intense scenes lately, because that was just. Because, like, you saw Daryl break down when he found Merle as a walker. Like, that was probably one of his only breakdowns, I think. And then after that, he sort of went to his apathetic stage where he was like, you know, whatever, doesn't matter, people are going to die anyway. Beth even says, you look at me and you see another dead girl, which I thought was a really great line to put in there because...
Yeah. That was just like...
But, like, yeah. What was I going to say?
You're talking about character development?
Yeah, character development. Mm-hmm. Great stuff.
The show does a really good job of character development. Yeah. I think they do also do a really good job of capturing the character development from the comics, too. Mm-hmm. Because they do still typically stick with the arcs of the characters. Like, they have their highs and lows. Like, Tyrese, he's a character that is a very passionate character. And he's a very angry character. Mm-hmm. He will go and... go through a crowd of zombies and use a hammer and kill them all because he's angry. He can't control himself. Yeah. And I'm really glad they kept the part where Rick and Tyrese get into the fight after they find the burnt bodies. Mm-hmm. Because that was a scene in the comics, except for, I think, Tyrese... They were fighting in the prison in the comics, and like one of them falls off like the second story of a cell block.
Oh, yeah.
They don't die, but I think that ironically made a really good friendship out of the two characters, because Tyrese... up until his death was actually almost like Daryl in a way, which is what we were really worried about because we knew that the scene with the truck and the head slicing was coming off.
That was a big thing with us because we were like terrified that Daryl was going to be Tyrese's replacement because Tyrese wasn't in there yet.
Yeah, this was before Tyrese was introduced. We were expecting like, okay, if they're doing this in the show, who's going to be the one on the truck?
Yeah.
And it terrified us, specifically her.
That was the biggest thing because like, was that before or after Merle died?
That was before. Well before.
Merle died. And
Merle died after Tyrese.
Yeah, and that was cool because like I remember coming into school and like I hadn't watched the episode yet where Merle died, and people were like around us were wanting to talk about it. Yeah. And like you were just like, no, don't talk about it. She hasn't seen it yet. Yeah. Just like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I want to talk about it so bad. She hadn't seen it. Like, what do I do? This is
talk about it in your brain, Patrick.
Dude. You haven't learned, and the audience doesn't know. I talk to myself a lot. So
Patrick, I talk to myself a lot.
Everyone talks to themselves.
Because I'm just the best person in the world to talk to.
I talk for completely different reasons, but I mean, really, they do a really good job of capturing the characters, and I really love how they develop the characters in the show. I also specifically like Michonne. Her character development's also really great. Yeah. That mysterious character has a funny side and a dark side and this mysterious side. She's so many sides. A multi-sided character. Faceted. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Multifaceted character that you learn something new every time she's in a scene, and it's really great. And she's a really strong female figure in the show that I think a lot of people can kind of look up to in a way. Mm-hmm. In a weird, this is a post-zombie apocalyptic way, but she's a very powerful female character in pop culture right now.
Those kids.
Kids?
The blonde kids.
The little
Oh,
kids,
the
yeah.
twins.
Lexi, or I think her name is, or
Like
something.
that. I don't know. They're
The twins.
they're kind of freaking me out.
Like one's like 11 and the other's like 9.
Yeah, like the older one that tried to smother Judith.
You know,
kind of scaring me.
you know, I look at them and I see Andrea and Amy. Like
that is actually really interesting.
Like the younger one, Amy. The older one's
That's
Andrea.
a really good point.
I never thought about it. I just assumed that they were the twins from the comic books.
They're back.
Boys.
They're back.
but I mean, like the older one has the same attitude that Andrea has, and the younger one is like, I mean,
Same
Amy didn't get
attitude as Amy had.
the same attitude as Amy, but I mean, granted, Amy didn't get a lot of screen time or anything like that.
But you can kind of
I
take stuff away from the character that
I
they did
see
show.
it. I know.
Definitely see it. Yeah, and I brought it up.
I just assumed they were the twins from the comic books. There were 2 twin boys that were in the comic books that were, one was really dark and twisted, like he would play with dead things.
Yeah.
And the other one was like a normal one.
I can see because there was like one scene where the older kid, whatever, Lexi or whatever,
Lizzie,
friggin'
I think.
killed like 2 bunnies that were just sitting there.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, okay, kid.
Well,
you need to calm down.
I'm going to take my violence out on harmless woodland
They're
critters.
just like little cute bunnies. I'm like, oh.
It's they do a really good job of making these characters and twisting them to adapt the environment.
Yeah.
I really love the interactions that the main group has with outside characters too.
Yeah.
Like at the first episode of the fourth season, when Rick encounters the lady in the woods and takes her back to her husband.
Yeah.
That was really good. And then they bring up the whole 3 questions thing. That kind of really, it's a very systematic way. And I really love that part too. It was really interesting. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. She looks crazy. She was.
well, I mean, the thing is, it's gotten to the point in the show where, and this could just be my negative attitude from watching a lot of shows lately, but it's gotten to the point if someone new does happen to come up that I haven't seen that was introduced in season 1 or season 2, or isn't like a major character in the comic books, I'm automatically like, warning.
That's like really good with like a lot of shows though, because like on another show, The Following, like where everybody you turn around and somebody's a member of this cult that they're trying to find.
American Horror Story.
All of a sudden, everybody that comes on screen, you're like, are you part of the cult? Are you a cannibal killer that's gonna eat us? Like, what's going on? Like, and it's really cool.
It's really good, and that means that the show is doing an effective job of getting you in the character's mindset. Because that is exactly what the characters are thinking. Like, are you a threat to us? Will you help us in the end? Or are you going to try to kill us?
Okay,
I mean, it's...
Okay, I'm sorry. Girl had wacko hair and dirt all over her body.
Well, you have to think, Rick is in a prison that has running water.
Yeah.
She said she's been wandering the woods, which... When we go to the governor episode where show him wandering, like, he didn't exactly look good for wear either.
That and I didn't like the way her eyes looked.
Yeah.
She had that I've seen some stuff look on her
I've
face.
seen.
And she definitely has. I mean, she keeps a decapitated head at her camp. I mean...
But this season seems like it's very much starting to focus on, here are these strong characters, now here's their breaking point.
I know,
because
that's really great.
I think every episode so far has had one of our main characters just breaking down. There was Daryl, there was Michonne, Beth had to fit.
Herschel.
Herschel.
Well, Herschel got stronger.
I wouldn't say Carl
Carl doesn't break down.
Break down.
Well, he had that moment when he was gonna shoot Rick. And
but I mean, he is getting to that point, and Rick is on his absolute last legs.
Rick is like.
It's really good because that scene at the season resume, where Rick and Carl are at that house. It is an exact parallel to a part that's in the comic book, except for Rick has both of his arms. Like, it's exactly the same. Like, Rick's in the same state, except for in the other one, Rick was a little bit better, but he had to have Carl's help for everything because he only had one arm. Like, there's one scene where it's like, "Hey, Carl, can you open this can of beans for me?" Because he can't do it. He has a nub. Yeah. It's like he's decapitated from this part here down. So he doesn't have use of pretty much his entire body.
Imagine Lee from the Walking Dead game.
Let's not talk about Lee. He's very sad. It's terrible. They've done a really good job of showing season 4 is definitely a character development season.
Definitely.
They are progressing these characters in such a way that it makes sense. It makes perfect sense as to what these characters are doing. And you're learning a lot of character backstory too, which is great. I think I'm the one of us. Have you read the Rise of the Governor novel?
No. I know you read it last year.
It was really good. But the group that the governor aligns with, the two sisters and the daughter and the dad, that's actually basically copy and pasted from the novel.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. And terrible at the same time. Because, I mean, I don't recall. He doesn't sexually assault any of them, does he? I mean,
No,
they have sex, but it's consensual.
They took that part out of the show.
Yeah.
Because he was...
Well, then the thing is...
It was consensual.
The question remains that if this season is character development and character arc season, should the next season occur, that's the death season where everyone starts dropping like flies.
Well, no. We still have a nice big window. We've got, how many episodes left? 4 or 5?
4, I think.
4. Yeah, 4. Alone, The Grove, Us, and
Abraham.
Ominous.
But I have a general idea. If they're sticking with the comic books, I know exactly where they're going. And it's a really great point. I'm really excited for them to go where they're going. And since they've introduced Abraham and his group, they've given us the ability to kind of see ahead. For comic book readers, we know generally where the show is going next. And it's not a fun place.
It's not.
It's not. It's really dark, but at the same time, it's almost like the first episode of the 4th season. You see this a little bit of hope. This maybe we can live a normal life thing. And that's a theme that constantly comes into these. We get really high happiness. The characters come resorting to a normal life, and then it crashes.
Yeah.
I also really love they're bringing back the herds thing, the herd of zombies. That was a really big thing in the comic books. What didn't really occur until the prison, and it's a really big thing from here on out in the comics. And I'm really glad they're introducing it.
But we've got to start wrapping up. So
I can't think of anything else to say though.
What do you think is going to happen in tomorrow's episode?
Well, they did something with Michonne. They did something with Rick. They did something with they did something, and they sort of did stuff with Tyrese and Carol. So maybe
I think they're gonna go. Yeah.
Are they gonna go back to Tyrese and Carol, or are they gonna do like a loop around and go back to Rick and Carl?
No,
I'm trying to think of the next time Walking Dead stuff they do after the thing. I want to see Michonne again for some reason. I want to see they're gonna go back to Michonne.
I like this whole like going back and forth between characters though, and having them their separate ways, and sometimes they cross paths. Like the railroad seems to be everybody's crossing that at some point, and there's even everybody's starting to go in that direction now. So
I do want to see what's gonna happen to Glenn though.
Glenn.
He did kind of
definitely
knock out
Glenn. That's how I'm gonna say Glenn.
This Glenn.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next season and this current season and all seasons to come.
I think it's gonna be a good season.
I think it's a really good season so far, and it's gonna get better, hopefully.
That's it for this episode. So
Michonne.
So Michonne says subscribe. So subscribe and all of that fun stuff. And
if you don't subscribe, she'll kill you.
Bye.